This is how you love in a biblical way. If you are single right now, or if you're in a relationship, I want you to think of this analogy. Imagine if you want to get from point A to point B in a car, and someone gives you some advice and they say, all you need to get from where you are to where you want to be, all you need is fuel. As long as you have fuel in a car, you're going to be okay. But if they don't take into consideration if you can drive a car in the first place, if you know how to accelerate, if you know how to brake, if you know how to turn the wheel, if they don't understand if you know how to drive a car, then you're going to crash. And the same thing happens when people give misguided advice and they say, all you need for a relationship to work is love. If you can be unconditionally loving, that's all you need. But that is not true. If that is all you need, then just like when someone says all you need is fuel, you're going to crash. The relationship is going to crash. And I remember recently, my wife and we were on a call with a couple. And I pointed out to them, I said, this relationship breakdown that's happening, this is not a love issue. This is a skill issue. And a lot of the time, if there is compatibility, what has a relationship break down is not because of a lack of love, it's because of a lack of skills. Skills in a few areas, which I'll break down. So if there is compatibility and there is a relationship breakdown, it's normally because there is an accumulation of resistance that happens because of unmet needs and multiple different things that can happen. And those unmet needs turns into resistance. The resistance turns into resentment. The resentment turns into repulsion. And then the relationship breaks down. And one of my favorite Bible verses, and it shows us, men especially who are listening, women who are listening, I'm going to get to you in a second, but men, it says in Ephesians 5:25, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. And I want to be totally transparent here. I and my ego can be extremely stubborn and just wants to think of myself and doesn't want to take other people into consideration, especially my wife, if I'm not aware of the ego that comes up. If I don't want to do something, if I don't want to watch something, if I don't want to go somewhere, I don't want to see certain people, I can be like, I'm just going to take care of myself and I am not going to consider you in this moment. Just being fully transparent. And through connecting with God and stepping out of New Age, where what I learned in New Age, which is that anything that is self-sacrificial is terrible. Don't do it. And this is something that I used to teach. I'm sure in old videos old coaching videos where I would work with my clients, this is something that I know that I've taught before. And one of the things that has been a practice of mine is to look at when I am being selfish. Because the Bible is teaching us to be self-sacrificial, to give yourself up just as Christ did for the church. And it's also as important to know when you're not doing that. Because the Bible says this is what to do, but also when are you not being that way? And for women, I love this. Ephesians 5:33, just a few verses after Ephesians 5:25, at the very end it says, and the wife must respect her husband. And one of the things that I love to do, my wife and I love to do, is point out what are the ways that women might be disrespecting their husbands, what are the ways that women might be disrespecting their boyfriend, men in general. And there are 5 ways. So I want you to, as I break this down, notice, even if you're a man, notice what stands out to you the most in terms of the way that you might be relating to your partner or past partners if you're single. So the first way is through criticism. Criticism, pointing out any flaws or mistakes harshly or excessively. Criticism is especially important to notice when you are doing that, especially if you want a man to lead, right? A lot of the time, if you want a man to lead and when he does lead, you criticize his leadership, then it is not having him feel inspired to show up for you and lead, right? So criticism. The second way is through controlling. So overstepping boundaries, or also noticing the subtle ways that you might control, not allowing him to lead. You just taking the leadership, right? The third way is through comparison. What are the ways that if you compare him to other partners, ex-partners, whoever it might be, measuring him up in a way that diminishes his value? The fourth way is through complacency, taking that guy, taking your husband, taking your boyfriend, taking anyone for granted. And the fifth way is conflict seeking. So picking fights unnecessarily and being overly argumentative, right? So these are the 5 ways that you want to notice how you might be being disrespectful, because the way that men receive love is through respect. So the Bible teaches us how to love in biblical ways. It doesn't say that love is just all you need, right? It shows us how to love. If all we have is love, then the relationship will break down. There needs to be a foundation of compatibility, and there also needs to be action, not just love. Action in terms of what you get to do, and also actions in terms of what to avoid. So I really hope that this video helped you out. Let me know in the comments if it did. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next video.